Can you guys hear us now?
Test this one too while we're out.
There's
Yeah. And I don't say I enjoyed it. Water to the same. Yeah. But yeah, it's there. It's not reflecting that. But I think that's a little sad.
try it again.
That's saying 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now?
You were gonna pick you up.
That's
Yeah. Good morning. Back.
The building like 18 years later, it's still the change.
We have a form? Yes. Oh, okay, that's great. Great. Okay. Casey, I'm gonna go check a form. The one person online. Okay. All right, we will call this meeting to order at 9:06 a.m. and we officially have a quorum so we can take care of business. We will start with the pledge of allegiance. And Councilmember.
Good morning, please face to my right, left hand over your heart, come from the military, welcome to the military salute, and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Austin. Here. Mr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Bredifield.
Here.
Mr. Walmoff.
Here.
Miss Mejia. Mr. Hatler. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Miss Norris. Miss Sandoval. Miss Hudson. Mr. Benson. Miss Forehand. Mr. O'Connell. Give me. Mr. Chavez and Miss Ruiz. Here. Give me 1 second to get confirmation from.
We can't hear you guys. Are you hearing us?
We can hear, well, we can hear you, but you can't hear us, so that doesn't work.
I can hear you. We couldn't hear
Oh.
anybody else. We can hear you.
We're good now.
Whoever's close to the computer, I guess. So
Okay.
Daniel and Jen are here.
Okay, and we have a forum. Okay, great. All
Sorry.
right, now. All right, our potential conflicts of interest. Any board member have potential conflict of interest?
Ma'am,
Yes,
agenda item F2, I intend to abstain.
okay. Anyone else? All right. Moving on, public comment. Business and presentation for floor. 10 minutes of the meeting were reserved for members of the public.
Good morning, board members, and my name is Neil Thompson, and I'm a lifelong resident of Fresno. I brought along some realistic renderings of the proposed CEMEX quarry to show you. The one behind me is a view to the Fresno area, to the southwest, and the one that's on the opposite side is a view to the north towards Bryant Dam. To give you a sense of the size of the quarry, I've inserted a full-size in the hole. So, you know what it is from Fort Point in San Francisco across to the Marin Headlands. That's the size of the hole. I'm not a stranger to the need for aggregate in concrete production. For 4 summers during college, I was a laborer digging footings and placing concrete on commercial construction projects in Fresno and the surrounding counties. During the 70s and early 80s, I was the chief estimator for Harris Construction, where I purchased tens of millions of dollars of concrete and aggregate. For the past 40 years, I've been in the combined role of architect, estimator, project manager, contractor, and developer on major commercial and industrial projects in California and other states as far east as North Carolina and Georgia. A majority of these projects incorporated concrete tilt wall construction. I currently hold and have held a California architect's license for the past 51 years. We need aggregate. This is not in dispute, but the proposed drill and blast hard rock quarry is on the wrong location. To give you another perspective, I've investigated where the boundaries of the cities of Fresno and Clovis were approximately 100 years ago. Difficult for you to see from this distance, but the size of Fresno and the current city limits of Fresno and Clovis are shown in red. Permits very small. And Clovis is like a postage stamp. The distance between the current city limit and the quarry is 2.63 miles. Taking that same 2.63 miles wouldn't even reach Fresno State campus. So obviously the growth of Fresno is and Clovis very dramatic. You know, what if they had thought that would have been a good thing that the quarry Fresno State is currently located? Not good. My point is, besides the total environmental disaster that the quarrying operation would bring to the riverine ecosystem, what will the metropolitan area of Fresno, Clovis, and Madera look like in 100 years? How about 200 years? Cities and counties rarely look beyond 20 or 30 years for their master plan updates. How can we allow something, this hole in the ground, to be created that will be as permanent as permanent, not subject to change by earthquake, landslide, volcanic eruptions, repurposing, nothing. As an architect and developer, I understand that when a building is no longer useful, economically viable, it can and usually be torn down and replaced. These structures outside of the historically significant are truly permanent. We should not give this hole in the ground the same significance as the Great Pyramid of Giza. It doesn't deserve it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay.
My name's John Halpin and I'm a volunteer along with Berkeley here. And I spent some time with Rich here last month doing a cleanup below the bridge at 99. And it became very clear to me that the homeless problem down there on the river is an issue that affects all of us. And I think we need to come up with some kind of a solution for that problem, because at one point, one of the volunteers down there found a 5-gallon bucket hanging in a tree. He thought it was full of water and he dumped it out. And it was full of human excrement. And the smell was something that you just couldn't believe. I'm calling it right now, I can taste it in the back of my throat. And all of the time that we spent was pulling up debris and campsites from these homeless people. And we were only working on a section of the river that's about 100 yards long. You know, all of that material is gonna break down and during high flows, it's just gonna be carried down the river. And so it's affecting the farmland below and all the way out to the garbage patch out in the ocean. So the reason why I'm bringing this up here is because I know there are community leaders here. I have some ideas about how we might be able to work that, to work that problem. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And so I have some background in what it's like to be in an addictive place. And I think I have some ideas that would help us take care of that problem. I'm gonna work on a proposal and I'd like to be able to present it to our community leaders at some point and see if we can do something about this problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, kind of, let's a little bit more about that cleanup. Caltrans provided hazmat, and disposal for us. We pulled 3,500 pounds of trash out. And there's probably 8 5-gallon buckets full of excrement in that area. That we had the bags separately and have separate from the main pile of trash that we pulled out of there. And the same thing is going on at River West, the north end in the forest.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone, we will move on to consent items. Items need to be pulled. With the exception of that two.
Member Austin?
Yes.
We have an amended agenda. I'm so sorry. I don't think that you have that in front of you. I think at this time, we'd like to move to closed session.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, you're right, we do need to move to close session.
And, because we're in a new location and we need to make sure that it's truly closed session. We're asking the public to please step outside and enjoy the grounds while we meet for closed session.
At least it's a beautiful day. Yeah.
It's small territory.
There's 2 more waters too, and we're gonna go upstairs so that we're extra confidential. If that works for everybody. It should be less than 20 minutes. Yeah.
Not with the windows now. sunshine a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
The, oh, you said that.
Reminder.
Oh, after I gave it to me just earlier. Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. Yeah. Did that one work?
No, but I'll try to.
Don't use the guest one, use the other one.
Okay.
That's our main one. The guest one's right there. Oh. Here. But it doesn't work, I tried it this morning. That was difficult. Okay.
You're just not gonna vote, or do you want for the stuff? You're just not gonna vote on it?
I made note of it, that he wasn't voting, he had abstained from that.
Okay. Should we do 1 through 4 with you, and then do 2 separately?
Well, those are in regular session, so they're all gonna be called.
Oh,
Separate. It's okay.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay. Moving on, there was no reportable action. And we'll call the meeting back to order. No reportable action, I'll choose that first. Okay, consent items. 1 through 3. Any board member wish to have them pulled, any item pulled from the consent calendar? Hearing none, anyone from the public? You do a roll call.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, make a motion in a second.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Motion approved. Second.
Second, motion and second?
Okay. Ms. Austin,
Yes.
Mr. Richardson,
Yes.
Mr. Brandville,
Yes.
Mr. Womaw,
Yes.
Mr. Hattler,
Yes.
Mr. Barber,
Yes.
Ms. Norris. Sorry, hold on, you know what I'm. Give me more or something. Ms. Morris. Ms. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell. And Ms. Ruiz.
Yes.
Ladies have it.
Okay, and moving on to item F1, approve and adopt the Conservancy's Economic Equity Action Plan.
A little slippery over here. Okay, well, okay, so item F1 is to approve and adopt the Conservancy's Economic Equity Action Plan. And this is the first time that we've had a plan. So we're asking for the board's approval. And I'll proceed with the summary, but it is a state requirement that all state agencies have this plan. So AB 2019 requires each state agency to identify a small business liaison and to develop an Economic Equity First Action Plan, also known as an EEAP, and related policies that provide direction, recommendation, and strategies to ensure that California certified small businesses and certified disabled veteran business enterprises are effectively engaged in and benefit from the agency's procurement process. Because the Conservancy utilizes California State Parks Business Services staff and procedures for its procurement activities, our processes have historically followed the pre-established guidelines for state parks. We've attached our Conservancy's EEAP, which establishes agency-specific directives to ensure full compliance with requirements of AB 2019, and the Conservancy's contracting and procurement specialist, which we are required to identify, will also serve as the small business liaison. So that currently is Ashley Bybee. And so the plan is attached as part of your packet, and we are requesting that the board approve and adopt the Conservancy Economic Equity Action Plan as presented.
So. Any questions from the board? Anyone from the public? Right, do I have a motion to approve?
Approved, sorry.
A motion, first and a second?
Ms. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Walma?
Yes.
Mr. Hatler? Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Ms. Norris? Ms. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell? Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
The ayes have it.
All right. Next action item is item F2, approve Wagner property, Madera County rental agreement amendment.
So for this item, staff is requesting that the board authorize the Conservancy's executive officer to execute an amendment to the Wagner residential rental agreement and adjust the current rental rate with the existing tenant. In 2001, the Conservancy purchased the Wagner property, which originally included 2 residential homes.
Sorry, Carrie, before we proceed, we need to, honor the abstention now. We were just.
No, he's not, he's gonna abstain. He's gonna abstain. He can still be part of the. So there was originally 2 residential homes. One home was demolished and had the swimming pool removed, and the remaining residence is approximately 1,500 square feet, has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an enclosed yard. In June of 2005, the board approved the use of the Wagner property residence for state employee housing. And since 2006, the Conservancy has maintained an interagency agreement with Millerton Lake State Recreation Area for the Wagner property. Under this agreement, Millerton Lake State Park or Recreation Area provides maintenance and repair services, and the residence continues to be provided as employee housing at below market rental rate. The current rate is $450 a month, which totals $5,400 annually. Under the existing rental agreement, the tenant provides in-kind services, including paying the annual possessory interest for the property, which is usually around $500, weed abatement and annual fire protection services on the property, and routine landscape maintenance of the residence, ensuring the grounds remain safe and attractive. If approved by the board, the Conservancy would increase the rental rate for the Wagner residence effective April 1st, 26, from $450 to $484.65 per month. This adjustment is the maximum allowable increase governed by Civil Code Section 1947.12A and more closely reflects the current market conditions. Conservancy staff recommend accepting the proposed amendment and request that the board authorize the executive officer to execute a modification of the residential agreement for the Wagner property to increase the current rate with the existing tenant.
Any questions from the board? Any questions? Public? We have a motion from the board. We have a second.
Second.
First and a second.
Was that Richardson and Benefield?
No.
Nope, it was
Jordan,
Gordon, okay. Sorry.
really excited about $25 minimum increases.
Every penny counts.
Okay, Miss Austin,
Yes.
Mr. Richardson,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield,
Yes.
Mr. Wilmot,
Yes.
Mr. Hatler,
Yes.
Mr. Barber.
Abstain.
Yep, sorry. Ms. Norris,
Yes.
Ms. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
and Ms. Ruiz.
Yes.
Thank you. And then, Jen and Daniel, can you tell me how you would like to vote for the consent calendar items?
I approve, and apologies for that tech problems.
I approve.
And then for action item G1, how would you guys
No,
vote?
F1.
Sorry, this is messed up. F1,
Approve.
Approve.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to F3. Approve the building and facility safety and public access improvements at Conservancy Lanes and Gibson properties.
Okay, so this is a two-part recommendation. Staff is recommending that the board take the following actions: approving the allocation of up to, and then if there's a correction, we receive updated information, of up to $2.5 million for building improvements to the Conservancy's lane facility, and authorizing the executive officer to enter into a contract with DGS for that project. And then second part, authorizing the executive officer to develop a detailed scope of work and cost estimate for the Gibson facility remodel up to $300,000 and begin the solicitation and bidding process for that project. So in summary, and I'm glad that we're having this meeting here so that we can see some of the issues at hand. But so summary, since the end of the Conservancy's lease at the Fresno Metropolitan Flood Control in 2024, the facility here at Lanes has served as the Conservancy's office and meeting space. To make the facility functional, staff have undertaken multiple significant repairs and replacements, including termite treatment, mold remediation, plumbing and electrical repairs, HVAC replacement and or repair, installation of rain gutters and flooring, and drywall restoration. If you visited this property, you know that we're currently always working on something in repair. Each repair or replacement at the Lanes facility has required an extended procurement process, and any repairs exceeding $10,000 trigger an additional level of bidding and contracting. Currently, there is no alternative process for emergency or urgent repairs like water line breaks, power outages, HVAC failures, flooding, to name a few, which we've all experienced. And that leads to unsafe working conditions, staff displacement, and increased workload. To date, over $125,000 in emergency or urgent repairs and numerous staff hours have been dedicated to this effort, as shown in attachment 1. In 2024, the Conservancy received a scope of work and cost estimate from the Department of General Services for a comprehensive remodel of the Lanes facility, and that was included as attachment 2. And then this is where I apologize. The estimate was broken out into 2 parts, and I mistakenly used the first part of the estimate, but the total project cost is just under $2.5 million. So we're asking for the board to approve up to 2.5 because you never know what you're going to find during construction. So the cost estimate includes planning, design, construction, and conversion of this single-family residence and garage unit into a business use. The remodel will convert the 3-bedroom, 2-bath residence into 4 offices, a break room, an open office area, and a meeting room. The garage structure will remain a caretaker's residence, but will be refreshed, and the studio unit will be converted into a restroom and break room for staff and work crews. The increase in occupancy will also require upgrades to our well, septic system, parking, and accessibility. So there will be ADA improvements, including a lift and a ramp leading up to the front door for the entrance. The full process from planning to post-construction will take approximately 5 years, with DGS serving as the project manager. While the Lanes facility undergoes this lengthy remodel process, Conservancy staff recommends initiating an additional remodel of the Gibson facility located at 11340 Old Bryant Road to ensure continuity of operations and provide a safe, functional workplace for staff. This proactive step will allow the Conservancy to maintain essential functions during construction at Lanes without disruption and will create usable facility for future needs. The Gibson facility remodel would serve multiple purposes. It would provide temporary office space. It would be a long-term backup facility for the Conservancy, and it could serve as a potential source for revenue generation if we were to lease first state housing, as we do the Wagner facility. Proposed improvements to the Gibson house include structural repairs to ensure safety and bring the building up to code. Provide for accessibility upgrades to meet ADA standards, energy efficient upgrades like HVAC, dual pane windows, solar, etc., to meet building standards, interior modifications to accommodate office use or housing needs, replacing the garage doors to ensure functionality and safety, and improving the septic system to support occupancy. The benefits of the remodel at Gibson is maintaining operational continuity during the Lanes remodel, so that gives us a place to land while this building is under construction. It will replace the garage doors it will create a potential for future revenue generation. So in the event that this facility is, when this facility is complete here at Lanes, we can move back to Lanes, use this as our primary office, and we can rent the Gibson House as either park housing, we can use it for Steve's crews. There has been conversations with the Steves. They have a program where they have crews come out at no cost to the host agency, and they will work on projects, but the Central Valley has limited housing. So if we have housing available, there'd be a very high likelihood that we could utilize those Steve crews under this current program. And it would also improve the long-term value and utility of this asset that the Conservancy owns. If we don't repair it and make it functional, it will continue to degrade. Right now, the facility is being used by River Tree volunteers as a storage space for their canoes and as a temporary meeting space for the Scouts Troop 301. They don't have heat, they use space heaters, they don't have functioning plumbing that works very consistently. And they do let us know that there are issues with the house. There's popcorn ceilings that have asbestos, and it's generally not super secure. And so we would like to repair the house and bring it up to being usable, truly usable for revenue. We anticipate that if approved, the funding would come from operations and maintenance budget to complete this work. The Gibson, I'm almost done, there's so much more. The Gibson House remodel requires CEQA review. However, this environmental analysis can be completed in-house by Conservancy staff, reducing both the cost and project delays. And additionally, because the scope of work is below the DGS construction threshold, the project can proceed through the traditional solicitation and bidding process rather than a more time-intensive DGS managed process. This provides greater flexibility, faster contracting timelines, and a cost savings. It is anticipated that the construction of Gibson will be completed prior to the start of construction at Lanes, which will have a place to go. And so that is a huge benefit to us. If we don't proceed with the Gibson House at this time, we can work from home, or we can find an alternative location. But this is the best use, I believe, or we believe, of our current facilities.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, it's 5.5 years.
Because DGS is, has a process, and they're generally slow but thorough. So, and it's long, so the timeline is included in the packet. It is a long time, but it's just their process that we're beholden to. Yeah,
This rezoning for this facility already occurred to operate as a commercial building.
we did, so when we moved in, we did submit a CEQA exemption to use this facility, this residence as office, commercial office space.
And follow up, it is funding for this project coming out of general fund.
It is proposed to come out of the operations and maintenance general fund. And it just, we just finished installing these lights. This room did not have lights. And then as soon as we were done installing the lights, the plumbing broke upstairs and leaked and rained through the ceiling, and we had to repatch and repaint. So we're not currently done, but there's been continual work needed at this facility. And Stephanie, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Not a question, but just like a comment. Since I was working with staff for like about 6 months, I was here to actually experience all the things that they have to like work through. So I remember one time I couldn't use the restroom upstairs, something with plumbing issues. And then I remember the back door, like something about not being able to unlock it, electrical issues. And then there was like 1.2 where I think we forgot about the water or something like that. And right, yeah, and then
The water's not potable, or we don't have it annually, we don't have it tested routinely, but I did do a test with a home test, and it was high in iron. So I mean,
yeah.
there's just a lot of little things that are always happening. And then the HVAC, I think, broke when you were here too, and we had no air conditioning during the summer.
Yeah, I feel like you're down here, it's really hot, right? And then you're up there, it's a little cooler, or like vice versa in the winter, it's like really cold down here, and then it's warm up there. And then I think you had a meeting with the stakeholder, and you had to apologize, like, oh, it's a little cold down here, but you guys had like space heaters. So just to, I guess, show that they actually are struggling through all these things, and that they do deserve a safe and functional workspace.
Sure, I mean,
Mhm.
regarding spending, I know we've already talked about this, but use of the money, deadlines to spend the money, and when that expires, and if they may extend it if we are under contract.
So we do have to send the money to DGS as soon as, like immediately to get, for them to start any work. And as far as the deadline to use the money, the O&M money does expire June 30th, 2027. But we do have a higher likelihood of having that money reappropriated to additional years if it's currently under contract. But there is no guarantees. But we will have already sent the money to DGS at that time.
All of it.
They're required to receive all of the money required prior to starting any work.
As a follow-up to his question, if there are cost overruns, since TGS is our fiduciary intermediary here, are they gonna ask us? Are they gonna report the cost overruns? Are they going to split the difference? Are they?
No, so there's a contingency, there's a 7% construction contingency already included in their estimate. If there is costs that exceed the contingency, we would need to come back for additional approval.
Okay, still.
Or we would amend the scope of work to be within our budget.
Got it.
And odds are good that it will, because it's a 5.5-year project and inflation will happen and then. Any other comments from the board?
Some benefits of repairing the facility as opposed to purchasing something that's more feasible for $2.5 million.
I don't know if the state is in the process of purchasing facilities, but we have traditionally leased. But with a lease, we don't own the facility. So there is a benefit like renting versus
Right.
owning. We'll own this property. So if we don't improve it, it will continually degrade, as we've seen with the Gibson house. Because we don't use that property and everything has been slowly breaking.
And I'm assuming we've done research into what it would cost to demo and rebuild something that would be ideal for this location.
We have not done any research for demoing, aside from the Circle B 2 houses on that property. Those 2 properties will be demoed by DGS. And I don't remember what the time frame was for that. I believe it was a couple of years, and it was $1.1-ish million to demo the 2 single-family residences and in-ground swimming pool and secondary fencing.
But we still believe that this is a better alternative to do the TIs here.
I believe so. To invest in structures that we own.
I think we should at least look into what it would cost to demo and rebuild versus, I look at this place, it looks like an absolute money pit.
Yeah.
And it just, sorry, and it's not ideal, right? The TIs are gonna be a lot of money. And I think we should at least do the due diligence and see what it would cost to demo and rebuild something ideal.
I don't know if we would rebuild. I think if we were looking into it, it would be the cost to demo and then we would do a long-term lease elsewhere. I think that that's more traditional practice for state agencies, especially for us being so small. It would make more sense, I think, at that point to lease something. And because there's long-term, I mean, there is gonna always be operations and maintenance costs, but we are moving forward in the next couple of months with pursuing fee collection at properties.
So this is more of a state practice versus what's actually practical in the real world.
Right.
And the lease has everything to do with if you're gonna be reallocated after a certain timeframe.
All the questions are. Prosecution rights.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions or comments? I have a question.
Morning, everyone. Sharon Weaver with the San Joaquin River Parkway and Conservation Trust. I was really excited when I saw this on the agenda because I think something needs to change about this facility. But I do share some of the concerns that I was already hearing from board members. So a couple of the questions in my mind are, A, does it make sense to put more money into a facility that was not built to be an office space. This is a beautiful single-family residence. It was a beautiful single-family residence. However, it is also built in a place that would not be permitted today. So as an organization that is committed to restoring and improving the river bottom and creating a parkway that serves the public, is keeping this facility in this place the best use of the Conservancy's resources? I would say no. We are in the floodplain here, if not the actual floodway. And you could not go out and build this facility today. You could not build that house next door because the floodplain regulations have changed. That being the case, it would make a lot more sense to me, and I think be more cost effective to do a tear down here, maybe do a tear down of the Gibson property too. But I'm just concerned that some of those alternatives haven't been evaluated. I also am just curious about the use of the operations and maintenance funds for repurposing this facility or any facility. That's a very staff-centric and board-centric use of the funds rather than a public-centric use of the funds. Those operations and maintenance funds were put in place specifically so that the Conservancy could better implement its mission, which is to create the San Joaquin River Parkway and provide access to the San Joaquin River and San Joaquin River lands that you are in. So those are some of the concerns that I have about this item. I do think something needs to happen here, and so I'm glad that there's a proposal to consider, but I think you should be looking at some additional alternatives. Thank you.
In River Retreat, and I echo some of the same things that Sharon said. And speaking of the Gibson property, because we've been there, we know what's there. To me, a TI for that is ridiculous. It would be a tear down and rebuild. It would be a much better use of funding, whether it be for office space or for leasing out, because that house, it's just a more economic and viable use of funding would be to tear it down and build a new one. On this one, yeah, it's in the floodplain. Yes, certain things are in the floodplain. Can you get around it? Yes, because politicians are involved, but is it a good use of that money? Like 5.5 years is a long time. Those are some of my concerns. I do want them to have nice office space, because it would be helpful.
Richard Sloan, President of Canoe Kayak Club. I think this is a wonderful building. While I was executive officer of Riverview Volunteers, we tore down 14 buildings on Conservancy property, partnering with Kiwanis Club for blow-off bins, Cal Fire to burn down 2 of the structures. There's partners, there's ability for the Gibson House to get it down without spending an absorbent amount of money. That's my thoughts.
Any other comments from the public? Thank you for your time to the board.
I would be interested in conversation about, at least entertaining, a tear down rebuild of Gibson home. This one I think is a little touchier subject, not only because of its proximity to the river, but also because of its historic significance. Like, regardless of how well suited the building is for executive function, it's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful property. I think part of acknowledging the river and the resources it provides is also the interaction that people have had with the river, right? And I think that maybe a tear down of this building, I don't know, makes my hackles go up a little bit. But when it comes to actually locating our staff and our operations somewhere that's beneficial, that can help us get more work done, I don't think there's anything wrong with extending the conversation about Gibson, maybe leaning away from, as you mentioned, TIs, given it is built residential, it is in massive need of repairs that could essentially render it total if it were a car. I'd be interested at least in a conversation about that. I'm not really interested in a conversation about tearing this building down, volunteer wise or otherwise. I think that'd be a crime against history. But, when it comes to Gibson, I'd be interested in maybe adjusting the direction that we've given staff. To talk about something a little more substantial, a little more cost effective than kind of band-aiding it. What do my colleagues think?
I would agree with you. I think there's a historical value of this building, and that's something that we need to move forward on. Have you looked at possibly just doing a long-term lease, like going back to the flood control? While these repairs we're getting done?
Rebecca, did you have a conversation about the lease at flood control before we left that space? That was right when I first started, so I'm gonna look to you to see what the conversation sentiment was.
I don't think they were interested in extending us, allowing us to come. I don't think they would like for us to come back. They were fine with us leaving.
Okay, yeah, well, the last conversation I had is that you were missed, so I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Charming personality that I missed.
yeah. I don't know, maybe because it was a different former executive officer. I'm not sure. It just,
Okay.
There
Yeah.
were some conflicts that we did have, so.
Okay, so the direction of the board should be, you want to explore the option of,
I would be interested in at least a rough estimate of what a demolish, a demo and replace, or a demo of new construction would be at the Gibson property. In the meantime, the entities that do use that, whether they're Boy Scouts or whomever else, maybe they come down here and use this area. I feel like this would be fitting for a Boy Scout meeting. So they're not absolutely out of creek, no pun intended. I think that, with that modification, I'd be interested to see what staff is able to come back with. I don't want to squander the work that staff's already put into this. But I think that would be a little bit more diligent of us. And it's come up from a few different board members. I think that an R&R of that place would be interesting, especially given the timelines that we're kind of brought up already.
So the majority of work on this item was done for the Lanes facility. So that was all work that started prior to my coming on board as the executive officer, getting the scope from DGS and the cost estimate. The Gibson House remodel was an idea born recently as an option for us to move into while this is potentially being remodeled, and then to serve as a revenue or income generator for the future.
and it's comparatively speaking, it's a minimal cost. Because
And that's just to allow up to that amount. That's just because up to 300,000, I only have authority up to 100,000 as directed by the board. And my understanding is that a remodel would probably cost more than that, so that's why we were coming with this number. If the board wanted us to explore the option of a tear down, we can certainly get that cost estimate, and provide that information, but this was a request to explore a remodel up to
but a
$300,000.
tear down would be twice that.
A tear down might be, well, there is asbestos, so it would be, I'm sure, extensive.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess it would probably be somewhere for a tear down and rebuild, probably somewhere between 300,000 and 2.1 million.
Right, but I'm saying,
I mean, if we're gonna assume Circle B has 2 single-family residences and an in-ground pool and secondary fencing, that was gonna be removed, and it was 1.1 million. So if we have, if we're gonna use that same, it could be a $500,000.
By that logic and on that train of thought, what then would be, and this doesn't need to be anything in stone here, what then would be a responsible, practical, and fitting use for this building if we were to move operations up there?
This building has been discussed previously as being used as a museum.
which still would be, need to become ADA compliant.
Correct. Or as a venue location.
Are we able to run venues or would that have to be?
Once we have a special event, policy and fee collection policy, yes.
Okay.
Which is, we're, scheduling to potentially hear that next meeting.
I would imagine renovating this place to make it a venue and or museum would be vastly cheaper than renovating it to make it.
I disagree.
It's the same price.
Okay.
It's the same price.
Okay.
I would like to note the historical significance of 1970s, right?
Correct.
Not the 1870s.
I don't believe that this house is of historical significance.
What's that?
I do not believe that this house is of historical significance. It is not on the national register.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's its location, and I think for having, you know, the Conservancy, with this property, you know, we can use this as a draw for the river, and I think that is the biggest, feature of this place, not the house. This place looks like a money pit to me.
Well, it certainly is.
And, you know, 2 million for, rehab, and we're gonna make it an office. It's hard for me to,
And it's gonna be 5.5 years.
it's gonna be, and 5.5 million once you factor in cost adjustments over 5.5 years, with rebid estimates and, change orders that are gonna happen inevitably.
Yep.
It's just very hard for me to be, on this side, making that decision, knowing it's gonna be 5.5 years with whatever costs are when we actually start bidding for subcontracting on all these types of things. And, you know, being at Harris, you know what 5.5 years can do to costs. So I would like to put a little more thought into this personally, at least on the Lanes property.
And maybe, I don't know if there are other options, but look at perhaps some other options.
For leasing space?
Yeah. Whatever other options there might be, I'm open to anything, but I don't know, I'm troubled by 5.5 years.
We struggled with it too, right? And that's why we got this estimate years ago and we never brought it to the board. But, you know, I finally, frankly, had enough with the, Sharon knows. It was every Monday, I was like, oh, there's something new and wrong with this house and that we're currently in this disaster response mode. Like the bedrooms where we have office space flooded. There was mold. We had to have all that remediated. We couldn't be in this facility. We had to work from home. Then the HVAC went out as soon as we got back because it was summer. Then we had to have that removed and replaced. This currently isn't working because the electrical hasn't even been hooked up. And then we had the plumbing leak. So the house is falling apart. We do need a space. We are required to report back to work, starting July 1. I believe the executive order called for 4 days a week. We are here 4 days a week anyways, as it is. But, if we are going to invest, this is the time that we have the funding to do so. And this location is slated, we've discussed it as a board in the past, to have parking and the boat launch open to the public. So it would have oversight of operations on this property and generate revenue long-term.
I have a question for the council president. Yeah. Could we meet at the city of Fresno?
Yes, there's a rental fee, but I can sponsor that.
That's what I mean. I mean, is that something that you think would be viable?
If you're sponsoring it, it's only good for as long as we have that sponsorship, then we do have to pay for a rental fee. And that was, I think, why we stopped meeting at Miss County of Madera, was because we were going to be charged a fee for meeting in that space.
I'll be here longer than he will. When he's done sponsoring it, I can.
You'll sponsor it?
I mean, it's not exorbitant, like a few hundred bucks.
Meeting place is the issue, it's where are they gonna work?
In that too.
Yeah.
Oh, true too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
So I think we'll table this with, and you'll come back with some more.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We certainly can do that. Thank you.
Okay, F4, government contract for the jurisdiction of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to the Conservancy.
So it is recommended that the Conservancy Governing Board allocate $10,000 to the Department of Water Resources to complete a property survey, legal description, and transfer of jurisdiction between the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Conservancy for the Milburn property. There is a lot of background, and so if it's okay, I'm going to skip to the summary since it's provided. Thank you for the interest of time. The Conservancy has entered into an operations agreement, which is included as attachment 1 with the city of Fresno for activities on Conservancy-owned property within the city limits. And this is funded by Measure P. However, the city of Fresno cannot operate and manage the Milburn unit of the San Joaquin River Ecological Reserve because it is not currently in the Conservancy's ownership or open to the public. Once the Milburn unit is transferred from CDFW to the Conservancy, the agreement with the city of Fresno can be amended to include the Milburn property. During this transfer process, the city and the Conservancy can prepare signage to meet the minimum standards for opening and a management plan for the property. In 2019, the Conservancy and CDFW did begin this process of transferring ownership of the Milburn property. However, the initial property survey revealed overlapping parcels from Madera County, which halted the transfer. Before completion of the transfer, the property must be resurveyed and the legal description corrected. CDFW cannot assign a surveyor for this correction. So in response, the Department of Water Resources has offered assistance and provided the attached quote for services, which is $10,000. This work must be completed by a state licensed surveyor. So just as part of the background, this Milburn property was always intended to come to the Conservancy, but it became a parkway property prior to the Conservancy being created in 1992. So the CDFW has held it since it was received. They're supportive. In conversations with CDFW, they've been supportive of this transfer happening. As we know, the Camp Pishan transfer of jurisdiction has taken quite a long time. So we're anticipating potentially the same timeframe for Milburn Pond, which has been about 2 years, right, Daniel?
Yeah.
So that gives us plenty of time to work with the city on coming up with a management plan for the property, preparing that signage and preparing it for future opening. It can't be open to the public as an ecological reserve, but it can be open as a Conservancy on property.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Anyone from the public wish to comment?
Yeah, just, I'm concerned about the maintenance, the trash, and law enforcement out there. We've had experience with homeless living on this island out here. And there is a observation deck out here. I don't know who, I think Fish and Wildlife funded it, but, there was a trail of interpretive signs going out here at one time. But that's just something to consider.
Staff for background, what direction are we facing in the picture?
This is the river side, and this is facing towards the city. They're facing north, south. Southeast. Yeah.
Karen Weaver with the San Joaquin River Parkway Shop. I'm super excited that this is moving forward, and I just encourage this to happen as quickly as possible. I think it was always intended for this property to be part of the parkway under the Conservancy's jurisdiction, so excited to see this on your agenda.
Also, I just strike my last question from the record because it's right at the bottom of it.
No worries. I didn't see that either.
Nick just learned to read, so it's not that.
Okay, any other comment? All right, I'll bring it back to the board.
So moved.
And a second, we got a first and a second.
Who was the second?
Sure.
Sure, there. Miss Austin,
Yes.
Mr. Richardson,
Yes.
Mr. Bredeville,
Yes.
Mr. Wama,
Yes.
Mr. Hutler,
Yes.
Mr. Barber.
Yes.
Yes. I was like, did I say your name wrong? Miss Norris,
Yes.
Miss Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell. Oh, did she leave? Yes.
You had to leave. I'll just.
Okay, Miss Reese,
Yes.
and the ayes have it.
Okay, moving on, Deputy Attorney General report.
Jackie, you are allowed to unmute your mic.
Good morning. I've got nothing to report this month.
Okay. Executive Officers report.
So welcome, thank you for attending our first meeting at the Lanes facility. We have been working with our Fresno State Fellows to come up with some volunteer work days, and we did just have a work day last month here at the property. We were doing some groundwork to prepare for native plant planting and then to do some native plant planting and to harden the area around the building in the event of fire. We are planning to have regular work days occur here at the property. I think it's currently planned for the third Thursday of the month, but I have to get final confirmation on that. We'll make sure to let everybody know and advertise that on our calendar as we move forward. We'd love to see your participation here. With that, we also have entered into a new and exciting partnership with Fresno State for social media services with a class at Fresno State. So we'll have, I believe it's 4 students come on Thursdays and work with staff here at the office on social media and content. There'll be more of a presence on social media moving forward and consistent with our social media guideline and policy that we've adopted previously. But we're very excited to have the help, and we're so thankful to Fresno State being such a willing partner in providing labor to us. So we'll let you know more as we proceed with that, and maybe we can find some time to introduce our social media team of students to the board. Also, everyone drove on our newly graded road into the office, so a big thank you to the city of Fresno for providing that service to the Conservancy. They did all of that work of grading yesterday. So it was nice and fresh for everybody. So we hope that you enjoyed that on your way in, and we'll continue working with the city on our partnership. And they do plan to speak and provide an update on Measure P and the services that they provide to both the Conservancy and the Parkway Trust at a future meeting. I think we're tentatively planning for May. And then finally, I know it was part of our consent, but I still want to thank Congressman Jim Costa and the city of Fresno for being such strong advocates for the Parkway and being able to secure that $2 million of federal funding for Parkway development improvement projects.
We all bear the cold. The coldest day.
Yes, it was a beautiful day for residents.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And then, E3, board members, reports and comments, and we'll, Councilman Richardson has some comments.
Should I start?
Yes, you should.
BJ?
Oh, I don't have that on the slide. What is it? I'm sorry, was it, you wanted to present that today?
Yes.
Oh, what is it? It's a PDF that I can send you really quickly. Send it to Ashley.
We come back to me.
Okay. Okay, any other board members? Someone please,
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to share the state currently has a survey that is open because we're seeking feedback from all Californians on the needs for trails across our state. There is funding in currently the climate bond, future funding in the climate bond, but State Parks is also updating its recreational trails plan. It has not been updated in a very long time, so we're taking advantage of this opportunity where we're seeking feedback from the public on what the needs are. What are some of the barriers, challenges that public officials face when either trying to create new trails or renovate trails? So please visit CaliforniaTrailsSurvey.com. And then there's 2 surveys, one for users and one for public officials. We're speaking honest feedback. Again, it's going to inform future funding for the climate bond. It's going to be used to update the California Trail Survey. But we are also going to be, specifically, I'll be sharing all the data from this survey with all of the departments, conservancies, boards and commissions underneath the Natural Resources Agency umbrella. That way everybody has the real-time information on what the needs are and how we can, connect more communities, make sure and people thrive. So please, please take the time, share this information with your partners. Again, the website is CaliforniaTrailsSurvey.com. And I can give the info to Rebecca, that way she can share it with all the board members.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Yes. Check the date here real quick. I believe it is March 21st, Joaquin Lake is hosting the annual, porta plunge out at South Shore near Three. This is in conjunction with Special Olympics in Northern California, Northern Nevada, and also with the law enforcement torch line. All proceeds for sponsoring someone to basically jump into really cold water to support Special Olympics. We're going to do this in conjunction with several different law enforcement agencies that are based in San Joaquin Valley. And also elected officials we expect to be there. So if you're looking for an opportunity to go that really, really cold, go ahead and reach out to Special Olympics, and you have to just grab the number to stay.
What lake is that? No,
It's about 51 degrees right now.
Are you jumping in?
I'm not.
So, question, are you involved with scheduling with Special Olympics to pick a date for that at all?
We are, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's possible, but I know that there are a lot of electeds or a lot of leaders in the area who are interested in supporting both Special Olympics Northern California and also Big Brothers Big Sisters Northern California. And their big annual event here in the area
This one?
is on the same day. It's been that way twice. Last year, the photo plunge. This year, I'm gonna have to go put on a skin tight suit and bowl against politicians, but I would like to promote. A lot of us would. There's something to take into consideration. It may be stuck on the date.
For future.
Yeah, for future years, such as.
Yeah, we typically have these discussions with Special Olympics, usually about a year out. And provide them available dates, and they try to get it as cold as possible.
Sure.
We have conflicts with available space because of the ongoing programming. Let me confirm the 21st, with my sergeant for, the permit says. And I'd be happy if there is any adjustments, that have already been discussed or has already been permitted. I can provide it to staff or reach out to you.
It's awfully close, I would say, the next year.
Yeah, for 27,
Yeah. I'm not gonna make an adjustment to the date, but if I'm wrong about that date, I believe it's the 21st. I'll wrap that up.
You're correct. I saw the conflict, the schedule conflict in my calendar.
Excellent.
But maybe for next year, that's something we take into consideration.
Okay, I'll pass it along to our special events coordinator and, reach out to reps with Special Olympics.
Thank you.
I do know the organizer for Special Olympics, so I will make an introduction. Okay, anyone else?
I'll just make a quick, I don't know if they're required,
It's we're having problems sharing the screen, but
yeah, I just did the final walkthrough of the Salmon Conservation and Research Facility for the San Joaquin River Restoration Program last month. So the facility that we started construction, I think, in 2016. We just completed it. We're raising our first year of production fish at that facility, spring run Chinook salmon that will go in the San Joaquin River. It's not open to the public, owing to its proximity to the trout hatchery, and we have concerns about disease transfer, that sort of thing. But it's the most sophisticated hatchery in California, certainly, maybe on the West Coast. So it's exciting to finally complete that project.
Anyone else?
Would someone from that project be willing to maybe give a presentation at future meetings, just so we could all learn more about it?
Yeah, probably.
she's having a problem bringing it up, but I have it, I printed it. I can make copies for everybody after, if you want to talk about it and introduce it.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't know why it's not.
We're down a staff person today. If you didn't notice, Ashley is not with us, but she is doing great things at the Small Business Disabled Veterans Business Enterprise Conference that's currently happening. As she's our advocate, she's there. So, we're making do.
Quick question on that note. Do you know what the threshold is to qualify as a disabled veteran business?
I do not know, but I could get that information for you.
Okay.
I don't, okay. I just know what our minimum thresholds are for contracting.
Only reason I ask is certain programs, you have to be at least 0% disabled, certain are 40 and certain are 100. So certain of those don't qualify for it. All right. Maybe. Okay, so you keep working on that. We're gonna kick it. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Still, something was pointed out to me, and I think it was actually before I even came into office, that down by the river, as you're proceeding along, say, Herndon, 9941 or Friant, you can see down to this valley, right? It's beautiful. You see the trees and things like that. Well, especially as we get into fire season, it becomes more difficult, or it becomes pretty apparent if there's a fire down here. But it's also difficult to pinpoint where that takes place. So, perfect.
Not so much.
If you can imagine,
That's why I wasn't bringing it up, because that's the second screen.
There's no mouse.
so if you can imagine a couple scenarios here. One is you are down by the river. Say you're out doing a canoeing trip or something else, but you're a resident who doesn't have great geographic reference for where in the river you are, right? You know kind of the address for how to get to the launch point. You know kind of where you pull out and where to tell Nana to pick you up later with the sandwiches, but everywhere in between, it's just the river. If something were to happen, I'd like you to picture, for example, someone falls out, someone goes under the water, you pull them out and they're not breathing. You have a requirement to call emergency services and you have an interest in calling 911, so you do. Great. 911 asks you, what's your emergency? Cousin Jed isn't breathing. Okay, where are you? We're on the river. Where on the river are you? Crickets. I'm by the tree between two rocks. Not very effective, right? So what does this do? One, it doesn't lend itself to the survivability of any sort of incident down there. Two, it doesn't make it easier for emergency services to respond to you. And three, it also makes it difficult to track where in the river we're having certain emergencies. Kind of scenario one. All right, scenario two, like you picture yourself. You came to the country 3 or 4 years ago, legally, and you notice as you're driving down Friant that there's a fire down in the river valley. Doing your diligence and acting as a good Samaritan, you call 911 to report that there is a fire down in the valley. Thank you very much. Okay, we have partnership with CAL FIRE. They're on standby to react to this. Where in the river is it? The aforementioned crickets. Well, it's right there by the river, between the trees. There's no sort of reference. So it's by the smoke. So what I kind of quizzed myself with, and I said to my staff, and we talked about it, what would be a way as easy and user-friendly as possible to be able to mark or easily identify these different points along the river, whether you're actually on the river itself or you're just someone who's transiting and you happen to see something going on down here. Small individual emergency or maybe a large-scale environmental ecological emergency like a fire. Well, any system that we put out there would have to be, one, visible from the thoroughfares that we have on either side of the river, and two, as easy to describe for anybody as possible to an emergency responder. And then three, that marking system would have to be registered. Dispatch would have to know what we're talking about, or at least the first responders who are going to respond, right? Be they fire, EMS, police, something of that nature. So how would we do this? Well, one, it has to be something tall enough or large enough to be able to mark. Given the ecologically sensitive area like this, it shouldn't be anything with a large footprint, but probably something up high enough to where it's visible. Two, whatever marking we put on it has to be consistent enough at intervals that people will be able to see it if they're on the river, but also far enough apart that we can distinguish distances from the thoroughfares. Third thing, how do you mark it easy enough to where people can actually see what it is in low light conditions, if their English isn't great, right? If they're a far distance from the pole or from the marking. So we came up with an idea that the most cost-effective and efficient way that we could think to do this is a marking system that involves wooden posts, not unlike one that you'd see holding up power lines in the city. Two, a repeatable system of colors, very easy to understand colors, not your mauves and your magentas and your periwinkles, but very easy base colors to identify. So what I would like to see is maybe a system of bands. We think a system of bands, a pole at top that has a single yellow stripe, or a sequence of all the colors in the rainbow. Next, you get a sequence of poles with 2 yellow stripes, because that's pretty easy to convey to first responders. Maybe the next series is a series of poles with big X's on them in each of those colors as well. Okay, Nick, great, but where would we put the posts? Glad you asked. We calculated 3 different intervals that we could potentially put these posts, or these marking posts. We contemplated every eighth of a mile interval, every quarter mile, and every half mile. The benefit, obviously, is as you get to a smaller interval, you get a little better location for where this emergency is taking place. The farther the interval, a little more difficult, right? You start getting to the lines of human vision. Second thing is how many markers it would actually take. So as you can see, we have here the half-mile interval, right? All of these white points down here at the bottom indicate where the post would actually be located. A half mile is not very difficult for a person to see. And a half mile would also be assuming you were at one post trying to look to the next one. So really the maximum distance would be a quarter mile if you were down by the river, and a little bit further if you were out with an easier point of view. The half-mile intervals, that would be 14 and a half miles of marking along the river that touches specifically the Fresno border there on the south side of the river, and that'd be 30 posts. Not an exorbitant cost. The installation of these wouldn't require electrical. It wouldn't require, insane sequent investigations or a footing 40 feet down into the ground. The second, DJ.
This is the third one.
So this is the half mile?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go to the middle one, please. This would be a quarter mile. Instead of 30 markers, the quarter, this would be the same 14 miles. Expect it would be roughly twice as many. I know the number there says 29. That's because one of my staff members isn't good at math, but that's all right. I will own that. So you'll notice they're a little bit more common as you proceed down the river. Again, it increases the likelihood that you're going to talk on emergency personnel exactly where it is, but we got to start getting creative with our markings a little bit. The 1 band, 2 band, 3 band, now we're going to start having 6 bands of color. Something to take into consideration. In addition, we're going to have to disturb that much more dirt to put them in. And then finally, up top, I would imagine, we have an eighth of a mile. This is an absolute wooden post party. We determined that although it's accurate, this is a little bit, probably starts to get in the cost prohibitive sector, right? We're going to have to start getting really, really creative when it comes to what the markings look like, and the costs are going to probably quadruple versus the every half mile. At this point, you're only looking at a 16th of a mile max distance if you're on the river to look up, which really isn't that far. It's probably from here to the river. So we're directing staff to look into this, what it would look like. I would lean more toward the half mile markings, but this will be something that I'm excited to hear the points of view from my colleagues on the board about. I think that this is going to, again, make the river safer, make it easier for our first responders to get places in time, and cut down on maybe some loss of property and loss of lives along there. And I'd like to see it, at least a conversation had and discover if this is feasible. So I personally will take any questions before we get back to the chair to take the board, or what you prefer. Yes, sir.
If you're making a phone call from the smartphone, can't you just pull up the map and look at the waypoint and give them the GPS coordinates?
Yes, you could also scan a QR code, but explaining that to people, I've found, and getting them to do it properly, sometimes it's difficult. And when you're in a situation where you're probably having the worst day of your life, expecting people to take these further steps to like geolocate themselves could make the difference between getting somewhere in time and not. Or if you are not physically located where the emergency is, i.e. the example of seeing a fire from an expressway, then your geolocation doesn't mean that much either. But the totally valid point, if you're on a smartphone, then your GPS signal should be co-located with the emergency provided we're on the river. Yes, sir.
I commiserate with you in this crisis. We have to deal with this all the time out at Millerton. We operate a park that's over the size of, bigger than the city of Madera. And we have an extensive trail network, and when we get calls for medical emergency or some sort of traumatic event or something like that, usually the response is, we're right here. There's just a help, right? So one thing that ECC with Fresno Fire and with CAL FIRE and multiple other law enforcement agencies has adapted to is an app called What 3 Words. I'm not sure if anyone has ever heard of this, but it is an app-based program. And right now, my 3 words are grim, performance, pulpit. And if you rattle off those 3 words, you can be punched into a ECC terminal and they can find where you are within 3 feet. It's a great option. It just needs to take ECC or dispatch to stimulate this conversation with the reporting party to say, it's better than where are you? What can you describe the landmarks around you? What's your 3 words? Now, to your point, having the worst day of your life, are we going to expect somebody to download an app, right? But they are already on their phone if they are calling you. So in the interim between installing multiple posts, and we've had these discussions too at the park level, especially on trails. If we can identify a marker or something, right, mile marker, that's if they had the ability to or care to look at the last one that they passed before they tell us where they are. But I like your idea. I think it's a great idea. I think people need to have more awareness of where they are, especially in open areas, especially when you have multiple jurisdictional authorities. They're going to be responding. In the interim, I don't think it would be a bad idea for the Conservancy or the other jurisdictions that have some sort of authority here to encourage waypointing for our visitors. And what 3 words is a great way to get that information out. But I do think there needs to be some sort of marking system, especially for not just emergencies, but ongoing work.
So one of the, I totally respect that, and I like that app a lot. Given my background, I'm trained pilot in Marine flew combat helicopters. Now I control them. And one of the worst things you can do is mix up the grid that you're trying to give them for an aircraft to come blow something up with your grid. It happens, unfortunately, somewhat often around the world. Mixing up your location and the location where an emergency is can mean the difference between 1 emergency and 2 emergencies. Despite people's ability to locate themselves, I think this will buy us not only the observers of things that are going on along the river, but also passive observation capacity for everybody transiting the 41, 99, Herndon, Full Front, which will really buy us that many more eyes ready to observe something right away and get a report as fast as possible. Sir.
Yes, how pervasive is this problem? Like how many 911 calls do we get on this 14.5 mile stretch? How many people have died? How many people have been, heart attack, stroke, drowning, trauma-related incidents? Like how pervasive is it? Are we solving a problem that is big, is minor?
Well, I think 2 things. One, I'd be willing to find out how many fires there were during fire season along here, especially, or even not during fire season when it's cold and we have a larger homeless population down by the river starting fires. How many drownings, how many health emergencies we have. I don't have all those numbers. That's something that maybe staff, we could direct them as we dig further into this to find out how many there were. But the second thing is, it could be minimal. And then all of a sudden we could have a fire that knocks out, a quarter of the, Fresno side of the river or something. So in my opinion, we save a life. It's worth it. We save the destruction of 50 acres of property from fire. Could potentially be worth it, especially if the costs are minimal, which is part of the direction I'm giving the staff to find out what the cost would look like and make sure that we're not implementing a solution in search of a problem.
To answer George's question, just in our role up at the lake, we're usually the first responders to anything that's going to happen within fire, especially all the way down to like Lost Lake. During a certain time of year, generally from April to June, we're probably down there 8 or 10 times in the span of 2 or 3 months. And generally, and to the board member's point, most of that is just trying to find them. Right. And it's not necessarily folks that are in crisis that are making a phone call. Somebody saw things that are out. In addition to that, it's also putting it where are we going to be launching this boat in the best way that CAL FIRE or SO can reasonably access wherever these people might be. That's one of the big limitations with the river is where are we going to stick boat apart. So that's not part of the problem right now, but in my own experience, we're down the river several times, especially this stretch here with overturned kayaks and drownings and people just falling in and having no idea where they are.
I'd like to add, I was at state parks when they started implementing what 3 words. It's an amazing app. But regardless how we move forward with this, I think I'm super happy to hear that Fresno State students are coming on board with social media, because regardless of what we do, it's that messaging to our users are like, you know, these are the things to know before you go. So I think whatever we end up doing, if we can combine that with those efforts, because the more access we provide here on the river, there are going to be more accidents. That's just human nature. But if we can do that messaging, with the combination of however we move forward, I think that's really going to mitigate, hopefully mitigate, accidents.
I think the Third River and all their access points, that there's a plaque and it tells you there's both a map and then a list of everything you need to know about that particular area as far as dangers go and what you need.
That could be a great addition.
That would be great at the different access points. And that's the other problem is that there's so few access points.
Yeah, especially for water safety. Yes, ma'am.
So kind of building on that, instead of putting all these posts in, having a map or a plaque that, or something like Lost Lake, if someone's going in, they can hand out this map using the existing markers that are there. The Ledger Island Bridge, Broken Bridge, which is where a lot of their responses are. Broken Bridge, right there, people slip over. Or you're by the fish hatchery, so instead of putting poles the whole way, you're by the winery. So there's a map and maybe a placard if you have your social people out there, it can be on the website. Here's existing things along the way that you should look for, so you know where you're at. I mean, some of us go on the river so much, you go by and you go, oh, I'm at Abbott and 11.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know where we are. But for others, it's not so much on that.
Yes, I love that. And again, for the people who are on the water,
Yes.
that's great, great resource. If I'm not from Fresno and I'm visiting my aunt and I happen to be driving along Friant, I'm not gonna know which bridge is the broken in and which one isn't, or which avenue on the other side leads to which part of Madera. I won't know that, but I should still have some sort of capacity to be able to call an emergency, I think.
Vernacular is also lost in translation for the first responders too.
Totally.
They don't, you may have a crew on a sketchy crew up at the 72 station and you're gonna say the Ledger Island Bridge. That may mean nothing to anybody who's working that day. So if you have some sort of universal system that's easily translated, it's more effective.
User friendly, it's not only user information, as you brought up, which I think is very important, right, the marketing side of it, but user friendliness is kind of the aim, right? More people who can call an emergency accurately means higher chance of survivability, especially for
You can't always see the markers. If you could see them from the river, you wouldn't be able to always see them from the road. So you'd have to have duplicate rows of markers. So if you're on the road, you can identify where on the river, but if you're on the river, you can also identify where you're at on the river. Because the rivers, there's a lot of canyon areas in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be able to see up and out. And there's a marker on the road.
Correct.
You need one in each area.
And the plan is not to mark along the road. It is along the river, but high enough to where if I'm on Friant, I can look out and go, well, it's kind of far away. I can't see much, but I know there's a big red stripe on top of a pole. That's kind of all I can see. I can't tell you how many people there are or anything else, but above the trees, there's a pole with, a big bright orange X on it or whatever.
So if you had a pole down here for water, how tall would it have to be so you could see it on Friday?
Well, it depends on how close to trees it is. So where exactly we're putting these, maybe each one of these has to be moved left or right, 20, 30 feet or so to be clear of tree obstruction. But again, those exact locations are something that we can direct staff to look into exactly where they should be. Putting a 20-foot pole in between a bunch of 20-foot trees isn't very effective, right?
It's not.
Yeah.
I think at this point, we just need to have a very superficial cost analysis per pole and how much that's gonna cost. And then we can get more into the weeds. No pun intended. Yeah, get into the forest more than and see and look at it a little more in depth.
Yeah, I would just try to be quick. I would definitely want to discuss this with like Sheriff's Department, Fresno PD, and even our law enforcement division. They do regular patrols on the river. I also wouldn't underestimate the permitting and ongoing maintenance costs for something like this. We have signs that we put all along the same walking route. It's a little bit of work trying to maintain that signage. And there's a lot of experience with vandals
people.
So that's a great point, and I totally agree with that. We've all seen it here. Something gets graffiti, something gets, BB guns shot at it, whatever else, and it becomes hard to distinguish what's actually on the signs. That's part of the benefit of putting it high enough up, take it up, 30, 40 feet, in that it becomes a lot harder to graffiti your name on something that's 30 feet up in the air, right?
I know I worked with Richard once where they had no trespassing signs that people would pull down, so they put it up high up on a pole, and somebody would come along with a chainsaw.
We've had that happen too.
A way to mitigate people, uninvitedly cutting down things with chainsaws, we're still working on how to confront that problem. And you know what? If there's a better solution for this, then totally open to the recommendations. But I didn't want to sit by and do nothing and pitch nothing and just kind of complain about a problem and shake my fist at this guy. So, I made my staff learn what PowerPoint was and we put this together. So any further questions? I'd be happy to take them. But know that following this, we'll be directing staff to look into that. And if there's a better solution, I'm all here for it. Yes, sir.
This is not the only river in the country, so I would assume that the others have tried to, had to come up with a system. And it's a big country, a lot of rivers.
Where is this system currently being used at? Can you maybe go into more detail there?
No idea.
No idea?
Nope. I don't know who else is using this. I don't know who else has come up with this marking system before. I didn't get this from anybody. I didn't pull this from the, whatever, Pensacola River Conservancy. It's just, a fix for our area designed by us. We can name it after whatever, Sharon.
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate your creativity and the thought that went into this. We've had discussions about this with various people over and over again over the years, and nobody knows what the right solution is, but this is the most creative solution I've seen, and it's the marking system to me is really creative and it makes it easy for people regardless of language barriers, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for putting so much thought into that.
I'm used to dealing with Marines. So the simpler you can keep things and making it easily understandable usually is one of the keys to success.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, I appreciate that too. I share that sentiment. I think it's innovative and, there might be something there that can be done. And if we don't want people to change something, we just electrify every one of the poles.
There you go. Wrap it in a little metal band like they do for the squirrels.
Yeah.
I would be remiss, if I didn't bring up one of my colleagues on the board of supervisors, Rob Poitras, where he beats this mantra every time that there is a new idea introduced. And it's kind of going to, there are lots of rivers around here, around the world. And to make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel. And it's not to negate, the creativity or even the viability of it, but are there other river or similar type geography, location devices that are better suited, that have been vetted out more, what have you. So I would say, direct staff to do some research into river tracking that is already existing out there, since if those types of things have already been implemented, I'm assuming they've already been vetted and have gone through probably different iterations of that. Not saying it's a bad idea or anything, but if there is something out there, let's look at that as well.
I will say the only other thing I've seen that's more expensive and more manpower intensive was one time in Spain, we did a river rafting deal and they gave us all individual trackers that you take with you at the put-in point and you give back at the takeout point. So if for some reason you fall out, you have an emergency, you can hit the button on it or call in with the number of tracker and they can come find you. That would be very, very expensive and hard to track and they would all be gone in like 6 months. So if I can recommend against that.
Yes.
I have a comment. There's already a universal river marking system that exists with the US Coast Guard. If we're going to say that the San Joaquin River is navigable, we have an opportunity, I think, to maybe look at aids to navigation, basically buoys that we can maybe post in the river that are marked and numbered. And then you take away the security property problem because they're in the river.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone is walking along the river, it's the nearest 800 that say, what's that number on it? we just would have to irrigate the Vision Boy waterways and maybe fish to drop some buoys for us. You know, right now about 40 buoys is about $10,000, and we could have them marked up and.
Maybe for those who are on the water, is that something that we're interested in looking into, a navigable status?
What's a little bit challenging, you know, rivers, they tend to be dynamic systems. They move around sediment, the entire river channel might change from one season to the next. You know, I think that sort of thing's probably been tried, but it's really difficult to put. Even just thinking about the proposal that you have to put post alongside the river, you know, the questions about visibility, being able to maintain them, it's a lot more challenging than it might seem at first glance. But I think kudos for thinking about trying to put something together like this. You guys might be working on something, but I think there's a whole lot of work that probably needs to be done to come up with something. So.
Okay, Madam Chair, what do we want?
His idea, you know, you've got buoys out there, or somebody does that has the temperature sensing units and the ones that capture the fish.
We use them all the time. We're constantly replacing.
Oh, okay, because we see them, you know, every time we get on the river.
Yeah, we have a whole extra box of them that they go out monthly and replace them.
I'd like, on the record, that was one kudos for the vice chair.
All right.
Madam Chair, I'll see my time back.
Okay, and staff is aware of the direction to take at this point. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Any other board members?
I just want to say something real quick. I just want to share my appreciation for Carrie for securing because we have been talking about like getting social media support from Fresno State. I was so disappointed that I couldn't secure like the first idea I had, but I'm really grateful that you were able to go through secure the second idea. So I'm so excited to see what those 4 students are going to do for social media, and I hope that this opens up more opportunities to get more youth involved.
Reports.
Sharon Weaver with the San Joaquin River Parkway Trust. I don't have any special slides for you today, but I just wanted to quickly mention that we had a really good meeting with Conservancy staff and a couple of board members last Friday to talk about the Ledger Island Bridge and possibilities there. Our next steps are going to be to set up a meeting that includes the Department of Finance and the state's lands commission so that we can talk about more details, and then we hope to bring something back to you at a future meeting. I'll also mention that on Monday at noon, we're going to be having an on-site meeting at Thunder Peck Ranch, both to talk about our conceptual plans for the restoration of that site, and then also to do a glean harvest event where we will be picking fruit from our citrus orchard and giving it to an organization that serves people that are hungry in our community. So I would invite anybody that's interested in participating to come join us at noon on Monday at Thunder Peck Ranch. Thank you.
Bridget Sloan, Fresno Canoe and Kayak Club. And before I forget, before I send about, on the boom, just going right out of me, the San Joaquin River Trail is one of the state trails, and to fill out that form online, you can put in, I suggested the bridge that goes from Palm and East to Sycamore Island is one of the things that's needed for the San Joaquin River Trail.
Right.
As far as this last month, Fresno Canoe and Kayak Club removed 4,500 pounds of trash from the San Joaquin river bottom with onshore cleanups, and removed about 100 pounds of trash by canoe. We've done 5 river trips in the month of February. One trip is out there right now. It should be coming back in a minute. And we've been monitoring the homeless camps, at River West because the highway patrol has been out there several times and it's just whack-a-mole. They keep coming back and coming back. There is gonna be a large cleanup at River West on 7 March that's sponsored by Fresno City's Beautify Fresno. And we're gonna take advantage of that to remove as much trash that we possibly can. The 2 hours that they've allotted, and then we'll continue on until we get the job done. And we also, on March 3rd, we repaired the Perrin Avenue gate, did a temporary fix there after Caltrans fixed it properly 4 days prior. Immediately, it gets vandalized. Does anybody have any questions?
No question. I did want to just say thank you for connecting more people to the group.
Yes.
Any other organization report? All right. We'll move on to, our next board meeting is, April 1st. The Darren County location will be announced. That adjourns this meeting.
We'll be meeting for the strategic plan in, let's just say 10 minutes, 9 minutes.
9 minutes?
9 minutes. We can all take a 9-minute break. And then if you're planning on attending for the workshop, please stay. It is our last workshop.
We will.
You can sit wherever you like.
This is just for the public, pretty much.
Yeah, it's for to get public feedback on, there we go. Okay. Thank you. So now we're in the strategic planning portion of the meeting. So this is the third and final opportunity is part of a workshop to participate and provide comment on the draft strategic plan. And some of the contents or the table of contents that we're working to complete. So we started the strategic plan in August of 2025, and we're hoping to have a final plan in August of 2026. So we do have a draft, a working draft, and we would like to release it for public comment next month in April. So this is the last public workshop, but we still have every Tuesday from 9 to 11 office hours here with me. Or if you want to submit comments in writing, we have email, you can send a letter, you can come any other time that I'm also available and meet with me. Please just RSVP and put some time on my calendar. We can do that. The three of you I meet with all the time, it feels like. Neil and John are at almost every Tuesday office hour. So thank you guys for coming to that. And then I meet with the Parkway Trust on Mondays. So I don't know if I want to go into this presentation that we've all three seen. Is there anyone online? Mike Yang? Yeah. Okay, well then I guess I will, because that is a name that I don't recognize. Okay, so
Quickly, before you delve into it, for the meetings that you have on Tuesdays, is it just in person, or are you also like kind of letting them talk to you like virtually through call?
It's in person, but if anyone wants to do a call or another like form of communication, we can do that too.
And then one idea I was gonna give is we now have 4 social media people.
Yeah.
Is it possible if they could like draft a flyer? Because sometimes I'm telling people and it's like kind of awkward to be like, oh, so this and this is the place and this is, instead of just being like, here's a flyer, here's the information you need, you could reach out to them.
Yeah, so we do have, I've been going and doing outreach at different events and functions, and so I do have a PDF presentation that I've prepared. But that's a PDF presentation. I don't know if you want to hand 15 pages to somebody. We can tailor that and make a quick little pamphlet, since we do have about 6 or not even 6 months left.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that are interested, but you know, they have work, and so I'm like, I don't really have a lot of detail about like the virtual meetings. Like, if you could just make like a flyer and then just be like, hey, you can reach out here.
No problem. We can make that.
It doesn't even have to be a piece of paper, because I get forwarded flyers all the time in text and email.
Oh, I will have our Fresno State Fellows get work on a Canva like flyer that we can send electronically next week on Monday when he's here.
Is that when they start?
Oh, so we have College 4 fellows, we have 2 fellows, Manuel and Emiliano, and then we have 4 other Fresno State interns through the class, that's are gonna be here tomorrow. So, and tomorrow, it's more of it, they have to provide a presentation to us, but the Canva, like pamphlet, I'm gonna have Emiliano work on, because it'll be faster. Okay. Okay, so, we are working towards a final plan in August of 26. The strategic plan, will include comments from everyone. We want to make sure that it's inclusive and that we're getting comments from not only our Native American partners, but our board members who are all, here and present and actively supporting and working with the Conservancy, our partners at agencies and nonprofits, and then our community stakeholders. So we want to make sure that all of you are heard. So please make a point to provide comments on the strategic plan. It will go through a formal 30-day public comment period towards the end of the process. So that'll be more widely distributed to the public. And then we'll come back and do a final draft based on the comments received. And then we do intend, once the strategic plan is finalized, to reevaluate it every year in August with our board and adapt if things aren't working out as we quite intended, and make some modifications or changes. Rebecca? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, this is just.
I think you're able to expand it. I thought, right?
Sorry, it's just,
So as Rebecca is working on, there we go, perfect, thank you. And then you can just, yeah, if you click it, I think it advances it. This is our draft table of contents and there's seven, no, here, you keep it like, okay.
wait, hold on, sorry, I'm just not, wait, is that it? No?
Yes,
Yeah?
that's our draft, our table of contents. It kind of gives the framework for the strategic plan, which will be developed and give direction to the Conservancy over the next 4 years until 2030. There are 7 goals and strategies and a timeframe for implementation. And then we will go through each of those goals now. So if you advance to the next slide, we can go to our first goal. Perfect. So strengthening tribal partnerships and advancing equity and land stewardship, working with our Native American partners is key and a large component and necessary for all of our work. So we want to make sure we're actively engaging in those partnerships and creating relationships. I'm a new executive officer, and so it is going to be some work getting to know these folks and develop those relationships, but I'm happy to do that. And it is going to make us better together. So coming up with, working with our tribal governments, local tribal governments, and making sure that we're integrating traditional ecological knowledge and promoting cultural awareness and education in all of our work is going to be key moving forward, and something that we are going to be expanding on in our strategic plan. Rebecca. Advancing land acquisition to protect habitat, expanding public access, and supporting regional conservation priorities. So in an era of limited funding, we want to make sure that we're acquiring property strategically. And so I think coming up with a prioritization like checklist would be really helpful in identifying those high value conservation areas or areas where public use is in demand. So making sure that we identify properties of the highest need for the parkway and its future development. And I know that we don't have eminent domain and we do work with willing sellers. So it is kind of opportunistic when we acquire properties. But we want to make sure that we're doing smart acquisitions at the same time. And because we don't have unlimited resources. Oh, sorry. No, you can go next. Okay. Accelerating and scaling habitat restoration to protect biodiversity and build climate resilience. So again, identifying and prioritizing restoration opportunities on the properties. Right now, we have a nature-based solutions contract with CRRCD where they evaluate all of 20 of our properties and are working towards identifying areas that could use some uplift that are degraded and then providing those recommendations for us. So that would be a great baseline for the Conservancy to work from. And then again, for any future planned restoration projects, integrating that traditional ecological knowledge from the original stewards of this land and finding and leveraging funding to restore the San Joaquin River Parkway and its habitat for both people and nature. And then so in hand with restoring habitat, expanding equitable public access. And so it's the first one is focused more on restoration. This is more focused on expansion, but also to optimize current access points. So we do have current properties that are open to the public for access, making sure that those are adequate and meet the public's needs, and then working on prioritizing future opportunities for expansion and public access and making sure that facilities are available on those properties to suit everyone's needs. And then this one is about finding funding and aligning partners with projects to accelerate parkway development. So we have a lot of partners that are interested in the parkway and its development. So, and some of those funders have ties to foundations or organizations with funding. So pairing them with projects that they're interested in so that we have a champion for a project. And one of the ways that we can do that is through working through, increasing usability of parkway properties. and that can be through improving trail connectivity and wayfinding, expanding ADA accessible access points. There's a lot of demand for river input at launch points along the river. So making sure that we have adequate parking and that we're providing adequate access to the river for everyone's needs. And then as part of that, we would also like to explore, it's okay. We would also like to explore a crossing feasibility study to increase access between the two counties. So that would look at potential crossing locations or bridges. The master plan calls for multiple bridges, and it's almost like there's too many. So where do you begin? So focusing that in on priority areas to connect underserved populations or areas that don't have a voice or are not coming to these meetings that are going to serve a larger community. And then advancing adaptive management through science monitoring and ecological knowledge. Just because we currently adhere to a practice doesn't mean that that practice couldn't be better. And I think that's true with a lot of our restoration work. We plant plants or we do a restoration project and then there's a time frame for monitoring. Usually it's 3 years and then 2 additional years of monitoring for a total of 5. And there's always a lesson to be learned. So we want to make sure that we look at the lessons learned on existing projects and improve future projects based off of that feedback so that we're not doing the same problem over and over again. And then finally, but very important, finding opportunities for long-term stable funding. Right now, the Conservancy relies very heavily on bonds, and that is a cycle of boom and bust. And so we need something consistent long-term. So finding new and diversified funding streams, so partnering with other nonprofits or foundations to create either a long-term endowment and fundraise for that, or to find, we are currently working to reclassify and hire an analyst 3, which will serve as our bond and grant manager, and we can pursue bonds and grants as well. And that's more boom and bust, but it increases our opportunity to receive funding. And then exploring revenue generating opportunities. So that would be like the day use parking fees or boat launch fees. We need to do something in order to have more revenue to keep properties open and open new properties. And so we'll be looking into long-term stable funding options. So I know that was abbreviated version. Most of the people that are still in this room, at least, have heard it a couple of times before, but this is the public's opportunity to provide public comment at a workshop. There's always an opportunity to meet with me on Tuesdays, except for on holidays, from 9 to 11. Or if Tuesdays doesn't work for you, you can always give me a call, write me an email, write me a letter, and let me know when your availability is, and I'll make every effort to be there. We also, the Conservancy does outreach at local Rotary clubs and other events in the area to promote the strategic plan and process. So this isn't the last opportunity to comment, but it is now your guys' time to comment if you have any additional comments. So with that, this is your time. Unless you want to meet with me on Tuesday.
Well, I mentioned the homeless problem.
Yeah.
Earlier. I think we should have something in the plan to try and address that. Because it is a big issue and it does affect the river very negatively. And all you gotta do is talk to Rich. And it's like you said, it's whack-a-mole. As soon as you get somebody out, somebody else moves in, or a few days later, they're 100 yards down the river.
It's true.
I just want to say, I know that people like to use the phrase whack-a-mole, but we are talking about human beings here, and I don't think it's appropriate to talk about the unhoused that way.
I agree.
I know that you didn't mean it that way, but it's just, it's in common parlance, and it bothers me every time I hear it, because I just think it's inappropriate.
My apologies. Think about it that way. Sorry.
But we certainly can discuss that matter more in our meeting time if you'd like, or we can workshop it together. I can show you what we have currently for addressing trespassing on the parkway and what we're planning to do moving forward. We currently have a contract with CHP. That they do security and safety patrols, but I know that doesn't address the heart of the issue that you just raised.
Yeah, it's a much bigger problem. It's a social issue that needs to be addressed. I'm much higher level. The reason why I brought it up is to get
Right.
leaders here actually, and should be a huge concern for us because of what it's doing to the river. And all you gotta do is go out with Rich on one of these cleanups and you understand.
You see it. Mm-hmm.
So I'll do some more research and I'll send you some ideas that I have, but I think most of my ideas are gonna be for a higher level type situation. I'll just go from there.
Okay.
So the other thing I have is, I had sent you that paper that I wrote on native access.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get a chance to
I
read that?
did look at it and I responded to you yesterday. That's something I certainly can discuss in our formal consultation with our Native American leaders. And I will plan on doing that. Do we have any comments from our participant online? We do not. Okay. Neil, do you have anything?
Well, we've been talking about it now for like 6 months.
Yeah,
And I've given you a number of written things. Everything that we've talked about, is included in what shown there. I have priorities, you know, they're rather comprehensive. It's a lot to tackle, especially all at once. But the critical thing to me is that the more people that understand that the parkway exists at all, the river exists at all, and that there happens to be a parkway along with it, it's critical. And if they don't know of it, it's, so I'm really glad to hear about the social media students from Federal State. That's fantastic. That's a great move forward. And again, getting access to the river is critical, so gotta keep pushing on that. Have to keep expanding the trail system, be it not only the paved trail, but even secondary trails. To connect everything, and obviously critical, two bridges that are critical. One is Ledger Island Bridge, and the other one would be from President West to Sycamore Island within the foreseeable future timeframe. Since it seems like everything takes forever. If it's 5.5 years to redo this, I can't even think about it. It's something that's difficult. That would be more than a lifetime's work. So I think it's critical to start on bridge to Sycamore Island, and as much as it would be great to have a great permanent bridge to Ledger Island, there's nobody around here that's old enough, I should say young enough, that would be able to be here to see it dedicated. So I have to go with the workaround to work on the Ledger Island Bridge as it is now. Because otherwise, we just lose too much momentum. If you lose momentum, the population of the metropolitan area will lose interest. And if they lose interest, then it'll be really difficult.
Sure. And I think that, I mean, the Conservancy and the Parkway Trust have been really committed to advocating for the parkway and its development. And it's, I mean, it's part of both of our missions.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see momentum lost. But the state moves slowly, as we discussed earlier.
It's becoming more and more apparent every time I'm,
So that's why prioritization is so critical, because it focuses our energy on specific areas and we can focus our effort. Was there a comment online?
They just said, thank you, this is great information.
Okay. Sharon, did you have any other comments on?
Just wanted to hear the discussion.
Okay. Okay,
I know that it said something about science-based stewardship. Have we thought about, like, how would that work, like, for example, first state, especially like my department or the environmental sciences? Like, how would that work out?
so I've been having some conversations with a professor at Fresno State who is very interested in having students come out and attend our volunteer days, and then potentially even like championing a project as part of like an end of semester type completion project. Or even like he runs a master's program, or he's like a master's advisor too, so that could also be someone's thesis. So it is a conversation that we're having, but I haven't gotten too much into the weeds. Bobby Lowell, he's the science communications a professor, tenure professor at Fresno State.
Okay. So like, what would the process be if I were to be like, hey, talk to the department chair from my major, be like, would you guys be interested in, you know, what's the word? No, like when you give something, input, like, or basically like, I'm using the word, what's the word?
Guidance?
No, like when you like give something, contribute, like. Science-based stewardship.
Yeah, I mean, just like what you did with the social media class, if you want to give me their contact information, I'm happy to call them and let them know of something, a partnership that we can explore together. And maybe we'll be successful, just like we were with the social media. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything that they want to add?
Great job, Carrie.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I stumbled a couple of times. We're still in the process, we're about 6 months in. There is an opportunity to review the strategic plan. We are planning to release that in April. So, for public review, and then a 30-day public comment period. So, and then after we receive, or that comment period closes and we receive all the comments, we'll be taking, we scheduled it perfectly with our break in the summer with the board for June and July, so that I can work on making those changes and then recirculate to our board before seeing it at the August meeting. So those are the next steps. There will be a draft for public review very soon, and we are hoping to hear even more feedback once you guys have laid eyes on the now 50 pages of the strategic plan. I'm going to try to make it more concise, but it is quite long because we put pictures in. So it's some pictures too. Or we're putting pictures in. Anyways, thank you guys for coming, and thank you online for attending. And if anyone wants to meet outside of Tuesday office hours, please just send me an email or call me and let me know, and we can arrange that. Thank you guys.
Sure. Just want to say thank you for joining in.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.